What happens when one of the world's biggest pop stars sits down at one of daytime TV's most opinionated tables? And instead of a friendly conversation, it slowly turns into a tense, uncomfortable exchange that nobody on set can fully control. Make sure to subscribe to Talk Show Fallout, and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience applauds as Justin Bieber walks onto the stage, giving a small wave, dressed casually, hoodie, jeans, nothing flashy. He smiles politely, but there's a noticeable calmness to him, almost reserved. The hosts greet him, some warmer than others. Whoopi Goldberg gives a nod, Joy Behar smiles, and Sunny Hostin leans forward with interest. Justin sits down, adjusting slightly in his chair. "Thanks for having me," he says, voice relaxed. Whoopi responds first. "It's good to have you here. It's been a while." "Yeah," Justin nods. "It has." There's a brief pause, the kind that feels normal at first, but just long enough for the audience to sense that this isn't going to be a completely light segment. Joy jumps in to ease things. "So, you've been focusing a lot on yourself lately, your health, your music, stepping back a bit. How's that been for you?" Justin smiles softly. "It's been good. Necessary. I think I spent a lot of years just going. And you don't really process anything like that." Audience murmurs in agreement. Sunny nods. "That's actually something a lot of young artists struggle with, burnout." "Yeah," Justin replies. "And not just artists. I think people in general, you know? Social media, pressure, expectations." Whoopi leans in slightly. "But you've also had, let's be honest, some very public ups and downs." The tone shifts just a little. Justin nods again, still calm. "For sure." Whoopi continues. "There were times when people didn't know if you were okay. And some people still question whether you've fully taken accountability for some of your past behavior." There's a small reaction from the audience, some murmurs, a few claps, a few quiet sounds. Justin pauses. Not defensive, just thinking. "I get that," he says. "I really do. And I've talked about it a lot. I've made mistakes. I was young. I was dealing with things I didn't understand yet." Joy interjects. "But do you feel like the public forgave you too easily? Because some critics say that." Justin lets out a slight breath. "I don't think it's about being forgiven easily. I think it's about growing in public. And when you grow in front of millions of people, every mistake feels bigger than it is." Whoopi raises an eyebrow. "But some of those weren't small mistakes, Justin." The room tightens just a bit. Justin turns slightly toward her, still composed. "I never said they were." There's a brief silence. Sunny tries to balance the tone. "I think what Whoopi's getting at is, there's a responsibility that comes with influence." Justin nods. "And I agree with that. I do. That's why I've spent the last few years really trying to be intentional about what I put out there." Whoopi doesn't let it go. But intention and impact are two different things. That lands heavier. The audience reacts, some clapping, some shifting. Justin looks at her directly now. Not aggressive, but more focused. "Yeah, that's true. But impact can also change over time. People grow. People learn." Whoopi crosses her arms slightly. Not everyone sees that growth. Justin responds quickly this time, but still controlled. "That's okay. Not everyone has to." There's a noticeable ooh from the audience. Joy leans forward, sensing the shift. "So you're saying you're at peace with not being fully accepted by everyone?" Justin nods. "Yeah, because I know who I am now. And I know I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago." Whoopi tilts her head. "But do you understand why people still hold on to those past moments?" Justin doesn't hesitate. "Of course. But I think the question is, how long do we hold people to who they used to be?" The audience claps louder this time. Whoopi pauses. For the first time, she leans back slightly. Sunny steps in again. "That's actually a bigger conversation, right? About cancel culture, about growth, about redemption." Justin nods. "Exactly." Whoopi looks back at him, her tone a little sharper now. "But redemption isn't something you just claim. It's something people give you." The tension rises again. Justin's expression changes just slightly. Not angry, but more serious. "I don't think I'm claiming anything," he says. "I'm just living differently. And if people see that, they see it. If they don't, I can't control that." Audience murmurs again, split reactions. Joy glances between them. This is interesting because it's really about perception. Whoopi doesn't break eye contact with Justin. It's also about accountability. Justin nods slowly. "And I've taken accountability. Publicly. Privately. In my actions. In my life." Whoopi responds. "Some would argue not enough." That's the moment the energy shifts completely. The audience goes quiet. Justin sits up slightly straighter. His tone is still calm, but firmer now. With respect, he says, I think sometimes people decide what enough looks like without actually knowing the full story. A louder reaction from the audience, some claps, some gasps. Whoopi leans forward. Well, that's what happens when your life is public. Justin nods. Right. But being public doesn't mean people know everything. There's a pause. Sunny watches closely. Joy looks intrigued. Justin continues, a little more openly now. I've done a lot of work on myself that people don't see. Therapy, conversations, making things right with people in my personal life. That stuff doesn't trend. The audience claps, stronger this time. Whoopi doesn't interrupt immediately. She studies him for a second. Then she says, But you chose this life. Justin gives a small nod. I chose music. I didn't fully understand everything that came with it at 15. That line hits. The audience reacts, more sympathetic now. Joy softly says, That's fair. But Whoopi isn't done yet. And yet, she says, there are people who go through things without making the same mistakes. Justin responds almost instantly, but still measured. And there are people who do. Everyone's journey is different. The tension is fully present now. The audience can feel it. The hosts can feel it. Justin leans back slightly, but keeps eye contact. I'm not asking anyone to excuse anything. I'm just asking people to recognize growth when it's there. Whoopi looks at him, expression unreadable. There's a long pause. And for the first time, the conversation feels like it could go in any direction. There's a pause that lingers just a little too long for daytime TV. You can hear a few scattered claps. Then silence again as everyone at the table seems to be deciding how far this conversation is about to go. Whoopi finally breaks it, her voice calm but firm. Growth is important, nobody's arguing that. But part of growth is also accepting that people may not believe you've changed. And you don't get to decide that for them. Justin nods slowly, like he expected that response. I'm not trying to decide it for anyone, he says. I'm just saying, I know the work I've done. And I'm still doing it. Sunny leans in, trying to bridge the gap. What does that work actually look like for you, day to day? Because I think people hear I've changed all the time from public figures, but they don't always understand what that means. Justin shifts slightly in his chair. For me, it's a lot of reflection. It's accountability in my personal relationships. It's therapy. It's learning how to respond instead of react. And honestly, it's staying quiet sometimes when I used to speak out of emotion. The audience nods, some murmured agreement. Joy adds, that's actually really relatable. But Whoopi doesn't soften. But here's the thing, when you say people don't understand the full story, it can sound like you're minimizing what they do understand. Justin turns toward her again. I'm not minimizing anything. I'm just saying there's more to it than headlines or clips that go viral. Whoopi responds quickly, but those clips and headlines came from real moments. They didn't come out of nowhere. Justin's voice stays steady. I know. I lived those moments. I'm not denying them. The audience reacts again, some clapping, some watching closely. Sunny raises a hand slightly. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like the media played a role in shaping how people see you now? Justin lets out a small breath. Of course. Media, social media, everything. It's like one moment can define you for years. Joy nods. That's true. We've seen that happen with a lot of young celebrities. Whoopi crosses her arms again, but her tone shifts just a bit, less sharp, more probing. But some of those moments weren't just one mistake. They were patterns. That word, patterns, hangs in the air. Justin pauses longer this time. Yeah, he says finally. There were patterns. I wasn't in a good place. I didn't have the tools I needed. And I didn't always have the right people around me. Sunny asks gently, do you feel like you were let down by the people around you? Justin nods slightly. In some ways, yeah. But I also have to take responsibility for my own choices. I can't put that on anyone else. The audience claps, louder this time. Whoopi watches him carefully. So then help me understand something, she says. If you take full responsibility, why does it still sound like you're explaining it away? There's a small ripple in the audience, some sounds, a bit of tension again. Justin leans forward now, more engaged. I'm not explaining it away. I'm explaining it. There's a difference. That line lands. A louder reaction, some claps, a few surprised laughs. Joy raises her eyebrows. Okay. Whoopi doesn't smile. Go on. Justin continues, his voice still controlled, but more direct now. Taking responsibility doesn't mean I can't talk about what led me there. It doesn't mean I have to just say I messed up and leave it at that. If I've learned something, I should be able to share that. Sunny nods. That's fair. But Whoopi leans in again. But sometimes when people hear explanations, they hear excuses. Justin doesn't back off. I get that. But that's about how it's received, not what I'm actually saying. There's a noticeable shift in the audience, more people nodding now. Joy jumps in, sensing the momentum. This is actually a really interesting point, because it's about communication, right? How you express growth versus how people interpret it. Justin nods. Exactly. Whoopi tilts her head slightly. Or it's about accountability being uncomfortable. And sometimes people don't like sitting in that discomfort. Justin meets her gaze. I've sat in it. For years. That line quiets the room. No immediate applause, just silence. Sunny looks between them. I think what people are trying to figure out is, how do they know the change is real? Justin answers without hesitation. You don't. Not right away. You see it over time. The audience claps again, steady, thoughtful. Whoopi taps her fingers lightly on the table. But time doesn't erase impact. Justin nods. I agree. Another pause. This one feels different, not just tense, but heavy. Justin adds, more quietly now. I'm not asking anyone to forget anything. I'm just asking for space to be better. That line shifts the energy again. The audience responds, this time more supportive, more vocal. Joy smiles slightly. That's a human thing, right? Wanting space to grow. Sunny agrees. It is. But Whoopi still isn't fully convinced. It is. But when you're a public figure, that space gets smaller. Justin gives a small, understanding nod. I know. And I've had to accept that. Whoopi watches him for a moment, then asks, so what happens if people never give you that space? Justin pauses. This time, he doesn't answer immediately. You can see him thinking, choosing his words carefully. Then he says, then I keep growing anyway. The audience reacts strongly, applause, a few cheers. Whoopi leans back slightly, studying him again. Joy turns to the audience briefly. Okay, that got a reaction. A light laugh breaks some of the tension. But the moment between Whoopi and Justin isn't over. Whoopi speaks again, her tone quieter now but still direct. You're very composed today. Justin gives a small smile. I've had practice. A few laughs from the audience. Whoopi nods slowly. Because there was a time when this conversation might have gone very differently. Justin acknowledges it immediately. Yeah, it would have. Sunny asks, how so? Justin shrugs slightly. I probably would have gotten defensive. Maybe shut down. Maybe said something I didn't mean. Joy says, so this right here, this is part of that growth you're talking about? Justin nods. Yeah, being able to sit here, hear things I might not agree with, and still respond respectfully. The audience claps again. Whoopi gives a small nod, but then adds, respectfully, yes. But also strategically. That word lands differently. Justin's expression tightens just a little. Not angry, but more alert. Strategically, he repeats. Whoopi holds his gaze. You're very aware of how you're coming across right now. There's a ripple through the audience again. Justin leans back slightly, then forward again, choosing his response. I mean, yeah, he says. I'm aware. But that doesn't make it fake. Whoopi responds quickly. I didn't say fake. Justin nods. I know. But I think sometimes when people see someone being calm, being thoughtful, they assume it's calculated. Sunny interjects, or media trained. Justin glances at her briefly. Right. But what if it's just growth? The audience reacts again, more supportive now. Joy smiles. That's a fair question. Whoopi doesn't immediately respond. She looks at Justin, then briefly at the audience, then back at him. And for the first time, there's a slight shift, not agreement, not backing down, but a pause that suggests she's reconsidering how far to push. But the tension is still there. And everyone can feel it's not over yet. The pause stretches, but this time it doesn't feel awkward. It feels loaded, like everyone is waiting to see who takes the next step. Sunny leans forward again, her tone softer but still serious. Let me ask you something a little different. When you look back at that period of your life, do you recognize yourself? Justin exhales slowly, eyes dropping for a second before he looks back up. Some parts, yeah. But a lot of it feels like someone I was trying to be, not who I actually was. The audience is quiet, listening closely. Joy tilts her head. What do you mean by that? Justin shrugs slightly. I think when you grow up in the spotlight, you start performing even when you're not on stage. You're trying to live up to expectations, or push against them. And sometimes you lose track of yourself. Whoopi watches him carefully. So you're saying the behavior people saw wasn't really you? Justin shakes his head gently. No, I'm not saying that. It was me. I made those choices. But it wasn't the healthiest version of me. Sunny nods. That's an important distinction. Whoopi jumps in, not letting the moment soften too much. But people don't experience versions of you. They experience what you show them. Justin meets her gaze again. That's true. But people also change. If someone only sees you at your worst moment and decides that's who you are forever, that's not really fair either. A few claps break out. Whoopi responds, life isn't always fair. Justin gives a small, almost knowing smile. I've learned that. There's a slight shift, less sharp but still intense. Joy leans in curious. Do you feel misunderstood? Justin pauses. Sometimes. But I also understand why. Sunny asks, how do you deal with that? Justin answers honestly. I used to try to fix it. Like, I wanted everyone to see me the way I see myself now. But that gets exhausting. So now I just focus on being consistent. The audience nods, some quiet agreement. Whoopi tilts her head again. Consistent or controlled? That word hits again. Justin doesn't react immediately this time. He lets it sit for a second. Then he says calmly, I think there's a difference between control and discipline. A few audience members clap. Whoopi responds, explain that. Justin leans forward slightly. Control is about trying to manage how people see you. Discipline is about managing yourself, regardless of how people see you. The audience reacts louder now, clear approval. Joy smiles. That's a strong point. Sunny adds, that's actually something a lot of people struggle with, not just celebrities. Whoopi listens, then says, but you have to admit, image still matters in your world. Justin nods. Of course it does. I'm not naive about that. But I can't build my life around maintaining an image. That's what got me into trouble before. That line lands. The audience claps again, more firmly. Whoopi studies him, then asks, so what changed? Because people hear this kind of reflection all the time from public figures, but it doesn't always stick. Justin takes a deeper breath this time. I got tired, he says simply. There's a slight murmur. Tired of what? Sunny asks. Justin looks down briefly, then back up. Tired of not feeling like myself. Tired of reacting to everything. Tired of waking up and not being proud of how I handled things. The room quiets again. Joy's expression softens. That's real. Whoopi doesn't interrupt right away this time. She lets him continue. Justin adds, and I had people in my life who were honest with me. Not yes people. People who called me out, who challenged me. Sunny nods. That's important. Whoopi finally speaks, her tone less confrontational but still firm. And you think that's enough to undo years of public behavior? Justin answers carefully. I don't think anything undoes it. I think you just move forward differently. There's a pause. Then Whoopi says, but people remember. Justin nods. I know. Another pause. This one feels like it could go either way again. Then Whoopi leans in slightly. So let me be direct. Do you think the criticism you've received over the years has been fair? The question lands heavy. The audience shifts, some leaning forward, others sitting back. Justin takes a second. I think some of it has been fair, he says. And some of it hasn't. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. What hasn't been fair? Justin's tone stays even. When people assume they know my intentions. When they reduce everything to one narrative. When they don't leave room for growth. Sunny nods slowly. But Whoopi pushes again. Or when they hold you accountable? Justin responds immediately. Accountability is fair. Judgment without context isn't. That line gets a strong reaction, applause, a few audible yes from the audience. Joy looks impressed. You came ready today. A small laugh breaks the tension slightly. Justin smiles a little. I didn't come ready for anything specific. I just came ready to be honest. Whoopi watches him, then says, honesty is good. But honesty also means being open to criticism. Justin nods. I am open to it. I've been hearing it for years. Whoopi replies, hearing it and accepting it are two different things. Justin leans forward again, just slightly. I've accepted a lot of it. That's why I've changed things in my life. Sunny steps in, sensing the back and forth tightening again. I think what we're seeing here is two perspectives. One about personal growth, and one about public accountability. Joy adds, and they don't always line up perfectly. The audience murmurs in agreement. Whoopi looks at Justin again. I'm not trying to attack you. Justin responds calmly. I know. She continues. I'm trying to understand if the change you're talking about is something people can trust. Justin pauses. This is the most direct version of the question so far. He looks at her steadily. Trust takes time, he says. I'm not asking for it instantly. Whoopi nods slightly. Okay. Justin continues, his voice steady but more grounded now. But I also think it's important to recognize when someone is making an effort, even if you're not ready to fully trust it yet. The audience claps again, measured, thoughtful. Joy smiles. That feels reasonable. Sunny agrees. It does. Whoopi leans back again, but she doesn't look fully convinced. And what if people don't see that effort? She asks. Justin answers without hesitation. Then I keep showing it. A stronger reaction from the audience this time. More claps, a few cheers. Whoopi looks at him, and for a moment, there's something different. Not agreement, not approval, but a kind of acknowledgement. But she's not done. Let me ask you one more thing, she says. The room quiets again. Justin nods slightly. Okay. Whoopi's voice is calm, but the question is sharp. How do we know this isn't just another phase? That question hits harder than anything before. The audience reacts, some gasps, some shifting in seats. Justin's expression changes, just slightly, but enough to notice. He takes a breath. And for the first time, there's a hint of emotion under the surface, not anger, but something more personal. He leans forward, looking directly at her. And the tension peaks again. Justin holds that moment for a second before answering. You can see it on his face. He's choosing not just what to say, but how to say it. Then he speaks, voice steady but more personal than before. I don't know if I can prove to you that it's not a phase, he says. I think that's something you only see over time. But what I can say is, this isn't something I'm trying on. This is who I'm working to be every day. The audience is quiet, listening closely. Whoopi watches him without interrupting. Justin continues. And I get why people ask that. Because they've seen different versions of me before. I understand the skepticism. I really do. There's a slight shift in the room. Less tension, more attention. But at some point, he adds, it becomes less about convincing people, and more about actually living it. That line lands softly, but strongly. The audience starts to clap, gradual at first, then building. Joy nods. That makes sense. Sunny adds, it does. Because real change is consistent, not performative. Whoopi finally speaks again, her tone noticeably calmer than earlier. Consistency is the key. Justin nods. Exactly. There's a pause, not uncomfortable this time, but reflective. Whoopi leans back slightly, hands folded. I'll say this, you're handling this conversation very differently than you might have years ago. A few light laughs from the audience. Justin smiles a little. I'd hope so. Whoopi gives a small nod. And I can respect that. That's the first moment that feels like a real shift. The audience reacts, some applause, a few relieved murmurs. Joy jumps in with a lighter tone. Okay, progress. We like progress. The tension breaks just enough for a few laughs. Sunny smiles. Growth on both sides, maybe. Whoopi glances at her, then back at Justin. Maybe. Justin lets out a small breath, like some of the weight has lifted. Joy turns slightly toward him. Before we wrap, what would you say to people who are still on the fence about you? Justin thinks for a second. I'd say, you don't have to decide anything right now, he says. Just watch. Watch how I live, how I treat people, how I move forward. And then decide for yourself. The audience claps again, steady, supportive. Sunny nods. That's fair. Whoopi adds. And that puts the responsibility back where it belongs, on your actions. Justin nods. Exactly. There's another pause, but this one feels settled. Joy smiles. Well, this was definitely not a typical segment. A few laughs from the audience. Whoopi smirks slightly. No, it wasn't. Justin chuckles softly. I didn't expect it to be. Sunny adds. But I think these are the conversations people actually want to see. The audience applauds in agreement. Whoopi looks toward the camera briefly, then back at the table. Because it's real. Justin nods. Yeah. There's a brief wrap-up moment. Joy mentioning Justin's recent projects, Sunny encouraging viewers to check out his music, the usual closing rhythm of a daytime show trying to bring things back to neutral. But the energy of what just happened still lingers. As the segment ends, the audience gives a strong round of applause, some standing, some still seated, but clearly engaged. Justin stands up, shaking hands with the hosts. Whoopi gives him a nod, firm, respectful. Not overly warm, but not cold either. "Take care of yourself," she says quietly. "You too," Justin replies. The cameras pull back as the show transitions, but the conversation doesn't end there. Because almost immediately, clips from the segment start circulating online. Short clips of the exchange. "I'm explaining it, not excusing it. Then I keep growing anyway. How do we know this isn't just another phase? This isn't something I'm trying on." Within hours, social media lights up. Some people side with Whoopi, saying she asked the tough questions that needed to be asked, that accountability shouldn't be softened just because someone speaks calmly. Others defend Justin, saying he handled the pressure with maturity, that his responses showed real growth, and that he stayed respectful even when pushed. Comment sections fill up, debates, opinions, people sharing their own experiences with change, with being judged for their past, with trying to move forward. Clips get reposted, reaction videos start popping up, headlines read things like "tense moment on daytime TV" and "Justin Bieber faces tough questions live." Backstage, there's a quieter moment. Justin walks off set, his team around him, but he's mostly quiet, processing. One of the producers approaches briefly. "That was intense." Justin gives a small nod. "Yeah. Are you okay?" "Yeah," he says. "I'm good." And he means it, not because it was easy, but because he didn't lose control of himself. On the other side, the hosts regroup. Joy exhales. "Well, that was something." Sunny nods. "It was real." Whoopi sits back in her chair, thoughtful. "That's the job," she says. "Ask the questions." Joy adds, "And he answered them." There's a quiet acknowledgement between them. Later that day, interviews and media outlets pick up the moment. Some analysts point out the shift in tone, from confrontation to conversation. Others highlight the generational difference in perspective, how growth and accountability are viewed differently depending on who you ask. Fans continue to debate, was Whoopi too tough, or was she right to push? Was Justin genuinely changed, or just better at communicating? But one thing is clear, people are talking. And that's what moments like this do. They don't give easy answers. They open conversations. Back on screen, as the clip wraps up for viewers watching later, the final message comes in. If you watched this whole exchange, you saw more than just a celebrity interview. You saw a real conversation about growth, accountability, and how people change over time. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think Justin Bieber showed real growth in this moment? Or do you agree with Whoopi Goldberg's perspective on accountability? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to Talk Show Fallout for more real talk show stories.